Sherry Gilmore. Assuming that you believe that climate change is real and at least partially human-caused, do you see that there's anything that the city could do to lower our carbon footprint or participate in some sort of mitigation of climate change locally?
Well, I've given that a considerable amount of thought. Certainly anybody that's lived in Los Angeles for a fairly long period of time has remembered when our city was totally engulfed in gray smog, remember? And when we made changes to our vehicles and so on and so forth, we cleared the air up. So there certainly is an amount that is related to human activity. But at the same time, we also realize that a lot of the appliances we use today are more efficient than the ones that we used in the past, and that helps. And I think from a city perspective, the idea that the city now centralizes so many of its facilities causes people from all over the city to drive to it. We have one aquatic center, we have one central park, and I would think that if we dispersed a lot of our park activities and a lot of our other activities around the city, not only would it be better for the community as a whole, but it also would shorten our travel distances and improve our situation with our carbon footprint. Go ahead. Question?
Next question. Hi, good evening. Thank you for being here. My name is Henry Miller. One of my real hot buttons is this traffic light synchronization. And I would hope each of you would make a comment about that. But what I'd like to do real quickly is tell you about one part of the city where the lights are synchronized. If you're going west on Soledad and you catch the red light at Sand Canyon, the next 200-300 feet is Kenroy. That goes into the Vaughn Center or to the swim club. And those lights are synchronized because as soon as that light turns green at Sand Canyon, the one at Kenroy turns red. So, and we're new to Canyon Country. I think we've lived here 37 or 8 years. So I've called the city and they said the lights are synchronized. Well, I say 2 letters that I'm not going to say here, but you know about the cow. And thank you.
Call it. One of the things about traffic light synchronization and just traffic in general, on June 14th of 2011, when Bob Keller and the rest of the council voted for One Valley, One Vision, which increased density along our arterials, it also reduced the expectation of traffic flow from free-flowing to significant or to delays within traffic queues, and expected that traffic lights would not be able to be synchronized. So to some extent, this is a conscious decision that's been made, and what we need to do is we need to turn that clock back, go back and revisit that general plan, and get our traffic expectations back to free flowing.
Hi, good evening. I'm Stacy Fortner. I'm a resident of Valencia, and I have a question tonight, and I could ask the same question over and over to all of you guys, but I'll just give you a heads up. I've been working on an issue for the last 2 years, Chiquita Canyon landfill, and the city has taken a position that it isn't in their purview, and they can't weigh in on that. And I'm going to say the 2 letters. I'm going to say that's BS, because the city can weigh in on that. I don't think the city wants to weigh in on that. I think that there's plenty that the city could do with letters of encouragement to Board of Supervisors, to maybe drafting some sort of citywide something that they can do to encourage the supervisors to obligate them to make good on their promise to close the dump. They're at capacity. They reached capacity of 23 million tons in June. They know that they've reached capacity, and they have been issued a clean hands waiver. So I just want to hear you guys weigh in on that.
Okay. Do you remember how many years back was it when everybody was bragging about the fact that we didn't allow the Ellesmere dump to occur?
Yes.
So what's the difference between the Ellesmere dump and Chiquita landfill? Well, it's not BS. It's M-O-N-E-Y. It's money. As far as Ellesmere was concerned, it was easy because there was there was a piece of property that was not generating any revenue, and we could take the high road and say we're going to keep that from being developed as a dump. The part about the Chiquita landfill is it supplies a big revenue stream to the county, and they go and sprinkle money all over the city. Now, saying this is probably going to make them not want to elect me, but I believe that when you make an agreement, when you as a company or an individual or a government make an agreement and say, I'm going to close when these conditions occur, you close. Or you go back to the people that you made the agreement with and get them to agree to change their ground rules. So as far as I'm concerned, Chiquita should close right on as planned, because that's what they agreed to do. And if they agreed to do it, and they say, you know, trash has got to go somewhere, they had 19 years to figure out where it was going to go.
Yes, my name is Steve. I'm from Saugus. Alan, I wanted you to weigh in on the sanitation district. As you know, the representatives on the sanitation district are selected by the city council, and with the current situation and the extended EIR, what is your solution as the sanitation director for the elimination of chloride in the discharge into the Santa Fe River?
Well, I think we're really fighting City Hall, or not City Hall, but government, and they're wanting us to reduce chloride to 100 milligrams per liter. I think it's an outrageous and it's a ridiculous requirement. And I also think it's also ridiculous. If you remember, our sanitation district, which has 2 of our city council members as directors, 2/3 of it, first came up with a $500 million solution. And when the population of Santa Clarita rebelled, they came back with a $130 million solution and said, look how well we did. We're going to save you all this money. They're not saving us any money. They're just continuing on and agreeing to this 100 milligram per liter requirement without substantially fighting it. So I don't see why our reduction should be any greater or requirement than others in the same area. And if we had 150 milligram per liter requirement, we could meet it now. So we could meet it now. And remember also, if you look at some of the fiascos that have occurred in the sanitation district, remember the deep well injection fiasco when we had a rebellion from the west side of the valley because they didn't want all of that brine deposited under their homes. And I think that's absolutely, they had it absolutely right. We need to go and we need to fight this requirement hard, long, and win.
Chair Gilmore again. In terms of development, whatever development is still can be done that's in the city's purview, how do you feel about that? Are you favoring more development or against?
Well, I think that anybody who owns property has the right to develop. The issue is when the city sets requirements for development, they need to set those requirements so that it also assures that we have the infrastructure to support it. That's why I'm talking about going back and revisiting the general plan. I don't think it's realistic to say we're going to stop development, but I think it's highly realistic to say we are going to manage development so that as development occurs, we have enough roads, we have enough parks, we have enough of every other kind of infrastructure that we need to support it. And if we can't, if we don't have those things that we need, then I guess we're just going to have to wait until we do.
That was my question about the high density building in our area with our water shortage. We didn't really touch on that, but how do you feel about this continued, population growth of the valley, knowing we have such a water shortage?
Well, okay.
We touched on that, but
well, I think that the methodology that they employ is wrong. It's just maybe that's the methodology that's called out in some book or by some group of supposed water experts. But the whole thing is that when they approve development, when they give will serve letters, what they call, for a piece of development saying, we'll be able to serve you, they do that on the basis of the average water supply. And I think that when the water supply falls way below average, like it's doing right now, maybe we shouldn't give will serve letters until it comes back up. Because it just seems to me that you shouldn't have to stop your life so that someone else can go add 50 or 100 or 150 more homes. So when I talked about infrastructure, that infrastructure includes water. So when the water supply is there, fine. But I know that right now in the 5-year water plan, in order to meet the expected need, they're expecting you to conserve to help them meet that. And I think that's absolutely wrong. You should be able to live your life the way you intended when you moved here, with the water supply that was available at the time.
Stephen Daniels. The issue of panhandling was brought up in the open statements. I'm curious what your thoughts are about panhandling, and in particular, do you support the idea of a year-round homeless shelter here in Santa Cruz?
Well, panhandling is a definite problem, especially aggressive panhandling, which the Sheriff's Department claims that they will react to. From the issue of a year-round homeless shelter, I was on the homeless shelter task force that was put together by Paul Novak in the county. And we were the ones that came up with the current locations for the winter shelter. We did it in a really interesting way. We got a whole group of people together, and we said, where shouldn't we put a homeless shelter? And we listed all those things. And then we sent out a troop of people to say, find us a location that didn't violate any of those requirements. And when they did, that's how we came up with where they should be today. Well, a few years ago, the state turned around and said, you have to provide zoning for a year-round shelter, or anybody who wanted to open one could permit it by right. So we got this group back together again, and using that same criteria that we used to cite the year-round winter shelter, we developed a homeless shelter overlay zone. That was with Lori Ender and the rest of the Bridge to Home folks and the homeless shelter task force. So right now today, we have locations that meet those requirements that the community wanted, where a year-round homeless shelter could exist. And the only thing that stops it is the fact that the shelter folks haven't been able to raise the money. Yes, ma'am.
Taxation for homeowners is very high and continually increased. Is there an end to this madness?
I hate to ask someone to tell me what she said.
I know.
Ask someone to tell me what she said. You know why, too? Because it's really hard to listen behind the speakers. So
Taxation for homeowners is very high and continually increased. Is there an end to this madness?
No. I think you said that the cost of the homeowners is very high, and is there an end to this madness? No. You're going to see that at the next. You're going to see that at the next election. The next election that you're going to see is they're going to come after you for more money. One of the things that's going to happen is they're going to come after you for the county is going to come after you for a partial tax for more parks. And we have no idea where they're going to build a park. They've refused to come out here and talk to us about it. And so I would say you should consciously look at every one of those things that ask for more money and just say no.
Looks like we have about 54 seconds.
Last
I'll make it short. I'm wondering if you can talk to the budget of the city and any stopgaps that you see with various categories with money moving around, and what's going on with the city's budget these days?
Well, partly it's a part of that is the fact that the city's budget really is kind of an overview. When they present that thing to us, which they present 3 working days before the city council approves it, it's really an overview. It contains certain things in it that says that there is money available that they just don't want to let you know about. So right now, currently, we have about $50 million sitting in our general fund balance, and we have another fund called the Facilities Fund now, which is general fund money, and every year, like this year, they come at the end, they say, look, we have a budget, and our budget, we're going to come within $300,000 of our budget. That's because they put $12 million into the Facilities Fund. So, yes, there are things that, okay, you're right.
Next up is